Hello, Saints Nation. So, Monday Night Football, predictions come a day later. Here's what I'm going to predict for this game. Obviously, at this point, we know Spencer Rattler is going to be the starter, despite Rizzy and Carr and Mickey being just dumb. Let's play the 12-year veteran for no reason so we can maybe win, but probably not. And also risk his injury guarantees when really we should cut him and go into next year with a clean slate. Yeah, we're dumb. We're just dumb. Um, Saints being dumb is not the prediction for the game. So let's just get into my thoughts and predictions. So thought number one is for me, I think the perfect outcome for this game is a repeat of the Redskins game. And what I mean by that is the team shows fight and shows character and makes a better team have a closer game than it should be. That Rattler and Austin and Kendre, the young guys, they make plays and they continue to show promise. Obviously, the hope would be no major injuries, but you lose. Like that's the best possible scenario is you look really competitive, you see more positive things. Ideally, Rattler looks good enough where it's like we want to see him play the rest of the year and you don't start Derek Carr even if he does go against doctor's orders and forces tries to force his way in. You go, no, we're not gonna be stupid. Um, that's the best case scenario. Like you want to get preserve the best possible draft pick. You're not making the playoffs. You're already eliminated. This should be about building. Like in a perfect world, I'm playing the young guys. Like you're not necessarily benching Demario or others like to see Ford or see other, but like I want to see them play, especially against a good team, a really good team. You want to see them play. You want to see if they can show you something against a high quality level of competition because it tells you a lot going into next year. Do I think the Saints are going to do that? No, I don't think. I don't think we're going to get the best case scenario this week like we did last week. I think Rattler's going to make a few plays where we're going to go. I still see something, and I think he's probably going to have a few plays where we're going to go. Yeah, he's a rookie. Had that one last week where I can't say it should have been picked because it would have been a hell of a play, but like it was definitely tipped. And once a ball's tipped, it's who knows what's going to happen. It's chaos. Um, Needed to layer that in instead of just firing it in. Um, there's probably going to be one or two of those. Green Bay's a really creative blitzing, and they're really good at attacking the interior. And the Saints' interior is butt, pure, unadulterated butt, butt. So that part's not great. So I definitely could see some pressure getting there, and I still don't have a ton of confidence in Clint as far as you know calling and managing the passing game. But we'll see. Would love to be proven wrong there. I'm going to predict. Um, I'm going to go on a limb on this one. I'm going to say Kendrick gets 100 yards on the ground. That's based on not a ton because this the O line is and Green Bay's defense is good. He's very explosive, and I think if he's the feature back, which obviously with AK out he should be, I think he's going to break a big one off. 35, 40 plus yard run. And I think he's got a real shot to get to 100 yards rushing. I think the Saints will get 3 sacks. I'm going to say Brzee gets at least one. I'm going to say Love throws one pick. Um, and I'm going to say Rattler throws at least 2 touchdowns, but probably one interception. Which, considering the weapons that he has to work with how many guys are injured, I think would be a pretty good game. If he crosses 200 yards and throws 2 touchdowns, to me, that's a win, and I think that's doable even in the snow. But again, we'll see. We'll see. Um, I don't know if it's gonna be snowing, but I know it's gonna be cold as hell. Um, Now to the negative predictions. I think the Saints are going to give up 5 sacks. Like I said, I think Rattler probably has at least one turnover. Um, my preference would be if he's going to turn the ball over, that it is a trying to make a play turnover where he tries to fit it into a window where it was just, it just wasn't there, or the ball gets tipped or something like that. Um, Rather than where most of his turnovers have come so far, which has been on sacks of just trying to extend plays or not handling or reading pressure as well as he needs to, and um, getting the ball knocked out that way. All of those aren't on him, but my preference would be, I'd rather have a turnover being really aggressive and trying to make a play than messing up. So, again, we'll see how that part goes. Um, I'm not going to predict a Chase Young sack for this game. I don't see this as being a game where he's going to have success, but we'll see. But I think there's a decent chance Cam Jordan gets one. Um, I think that'll be it for my predictions. So, 3 sacks for the Saints, 5 sacks against the Saints, 100 yards for Kendra, 2 touchdowns, one pick for Rattler. I'd love for him to be over 200 yards, which doesn't sound amazing, but again, against this defense in these circumstances with these weapons, I think that's would be a very, very positive day. Um, and possibly a Cam Jordan sack. I am definitely going to predict a Green Bay win. And outside of predictions, I'm going to say something about Derek Rizzi. So I think it is uncontestable at this point that Darren Rizzi is a better head coach than Dennis Allen. I think that's not a controversy. That's not in question. There's a lot of little things and some big things that are very obviously better under Darren Rizzi than they were under Dennis Allen. And it's not just as simple as like, oh, well, the team plays hard. The team played hard under Dennis Allen, but they were unorganized and poorly prepared. And he had to be told that actually stretching is important. Like these types of things matter. And we're seeing more of the young guys get snaps. Like we're seeing a guy like Austin Jr. who looked good in preseason and looked good in training camp and was making plays and provided that big body type that they've needed all year, and he couldn't get snaps. And you're playing equilateral St. Brown's idiot ass who's might be a worse NFL receiver than he is a podcaster, and he's a terrible podcaster. And you're you know promoting him and putting him on the field over this guy who actually has the attributes that you desperately needed. Like you needed a chain mover. You needed that big body guy when you had Shaheed and Olave. That was the missing piece. Like that type of stuff matters. So like those guys at least getting a shot, playing Kendra, not putting him in the doghouse just because you don't like him, which very obviously was a DA move. Like all that kind of stuff. Those are positives. With that said, being better than someone does not mean you're good. So it's kind of like the Derek Carr situation. Derek Carr is not the worst quarterback in the NFL. He's not. That's not a controversial statement. And people like I know Mike Triplett loves to talk about. Oh my God, the fans they just don't understand. He acts like he's the worst quarterback in the league. I mean, yeah, some people do. But plenty of people with brains frequently point out, no, he's not the worst quarterback in the league, but he's nowhere close to good. And if you're paying him $40 million a year, he adds nothing, brings nothing, elevates nothing. There is zero reason to play him over younger players who have potential because he adds nothing and he brings nothing. The only thing he does is he minimizes mistakes, but he also minimizes plays. So he's not going to win you anything. Derek Carr had no impact on those week 1 and 2 dominant victories. Derek Carr had no impact on the game against the Browns where you dominated. Derek Carr didn't perform well against the Falcons in the game you won, but he performed horribly in the game against the Giants where you won barely, only because they're the Giants. Like if Daniel Jones is on that roster and in that game, the Saints lose that game. Like whatever his name, Stromboli, was terrible, and that's the only reason the Saints won that game. These are the reality. He doesn't make plays. He doesn't make great throws, other than play action bombs. He's great at play action bombs. Doesn't make great reads. Doesn't elevate the floor of the roster, and he doesn't positively impact the ceiling. He just kind of floats on top of the latrine. That's Derek Carr. I don't think Darren Rizzi's that bad, but that's kind of where he is to me as a coach. Yes, the team play hard, and that matters. And yes, he's brought some accountability, and yes, the players like him, and all those things matter. But what's your advantage with Darren Rizzi? I can't name one. And and yes, you can say it's an agenda. You can say it's a I just hate the guy, which I kind of do, because he's a douchebag. Um, but the way Darren Rizzi's been talking about Derek Carr and handling that whole situation, to me, that's reason enough to be out. Like I understand. Oh well, I think Derek Carr gives me a better chance to win, and if I win enough games, this is my one and only chance in the NFL to be a head coach. And the best case I can make is like being at 500 or a little bit above of a team that only won 2 games and like with 9 tries before I took over. I get all of that. I do. Here's my problem. I mean, I have lots of problems, but here's the problem with this. Derek Carr doesn't actually give you your best chance to win. Like Rattler's performance against the Broncos and the Chargers is used as some incredible argument of how good Derek Carr was. The problem is we've seen Derek Carr look way worse than that against far inferior defenses than that. Look to the Giants game where he got hurt by being a moron. But even before he got hurt, like he had 2 drives where he actually played NFL quarterback at a reasonable level, and the rest of the game he was certifiably butt. And we have to acknowledge that. And as a coach, you have to acknowledge that. Now here's the one caveat I'm going to give as a maybe in Rizzi's favor. If all of this is lip service, if he knows that Mickey wants to keep Carr, because Mickey, who doesn't know shit about football and is a very bad general manager, like that's just a fact. Mickey is a bad general manager, has been for a long time. If Mickey wants to keep Carr, and Mickey thinks Carr's the answer, and Rizzi knows that Mickey decides who gets the job, publicly making it known that Rizzi is on the same page with starting Carr, but really knowing I've talked with the offensive staff and we all agree that the delta between Carr and Rattler is not that difference because yeah, Rattler will make a few more mistakes, but he'll also actually make plays. And the difference is that like he can get better over time and Carr is just butt. Like unless Taysom and Alvin are there, Carr has no shot at being particularly good, and those guys are both out now. So you need a quarterback who actually is good at quarterbacking. That ain't Derek Carr. You'd argue he never has been, but certainly hasn't been the last several years. Simply not who he is. He's not a floor raiser. He's not a ceiling raiser. He's a turd floating at the top of the latrine. So if, hypothetically, Rizzi understands that, Rizzi knows that, but Rizzi's playing politics with Mickey, who he knows doesn't understand that and doesn't know that. And he's saying all these things publicly. Oh yeah, well, if Derek comes back, Rattler's our starting quarterback. Oh, Derek's getting close. They're not going to fucking clear him. If that's the game he's playing, that is actually a positive in Rizzy's book because that's handling things behind the scenes and having a holistic top down view of the team, what's best for the team, what's best for the roster, what's best for the future of the team, but doing it in a way that is politically savvy. If that's what Rizzy's doing, okay, props to Rizzy. But if that's not what he's doing, and he really means it, and he really is like, well, Derek Carr's 3-1 when he's been starting for me. Oh, we're going to count that Giants game as a win. We're going to count the Browns game as a win for Carr. For Carr, Derek Carr was now. I know some folks say they don't see color, um, but apparently you don't see athleticism or performance or statistics either because Derek Carr and Taysom Hill, just because they're both white, are not the same quarterback. And one of them directly led to the win in that game. And it wasn't Derek Carr. No, it was Taysom Hill. And he's obviously out for the season. So, like, that's really where I stand on the Derek Rizzi situation. My preference, my number one preference right now is probably Cohen, the offensive coordinator from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I would say Ben Johnson, but Ben Johnson is there's no way Ben Johnson is going to look at the Saints when that job in Chicago with Caleb is right there. Granted, though, you also have to deal with the Bears, but we have Mickey, so unless Mickey gets promoted out of being a fucking obstacle, he's not going to consider the Saints. Cohen or Monken, like those are the guys I'm looking for. And if you can get either of those guys. Number one, I think having Rattler play 4 games, these final 4 games, win or lose, like wins isn't a quarterback stat, but win or lose, if you're playing these final games and you get a shot to see, we've seen some attributes. Does he improve game over game? Does he do good things? Like if he looks okay against Green Bay, who's a really good team, and then he looks great against the Raiders, who are a terrible team, which would be reasonable expectation. Then you have the final Bucks game, and who knows how he looks against them, but he's probably, got a pretty good shot of looking good there. You are a more appealing job, and this will be my last thing for today on this subject because I'm going a little bit long here. Try to keep these between 10 and 15 minutes. Look, if if Mickey is interviewing someone to be the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, if the first thing out of their mouth is I'm not interested in the job of Derek Carr as my starting quarterback, or at least Derek Carr can be on the roster, but we're going to have a quarterback competition and I intend to draft one. This is not our quarterback of the future. You can't win with him. If some version of that is not said, congratulations, you have successfully identified someone who panders to a bad GM and is not qualified to be a good head coach in the league. Get him out. It's that simple. Period. 11 years in the league. Never been that guy. Been here for 2 years. Never been that guy. Let me name for you the entire list of games the Saints have won because of Derek Carr. Did you get the list? Because I can name for you games we won because of AK. I can give you the list of games that they won because of Taysom. You can even get some games they won because of the defense. You can't find one game Derek Carr has been in New Orleans where you win. They won that game because of Derek Carr. Derek Carr's play from the first snap to the last snap is the difference in this game. He was really good. The game doesn't exist. And there's your problem. Because you're paying him to at least be able to do that sometimes. Andy Dalton has done that sometimes in New Orleans and this year in Carolina. Played well enough in games and played in games where he was the reason they won or were close to winning, etc. Spencer Rattler did it last week. Like I said last week, as far as I'm concerned, that's a win. He threw a catchable ball in the 2 point conversion. Juwan didn't catch it. He did everything he could to win that game. And as a bonus, you didn't mess up your draft slot, so they won. Derek Carr's never done that. And if you can't do that, you don't need to be paid as if you can do that. Now, the top guys do it all the time. They do it consistently. That's why they're elite. If you're above that floating on sewage line, you at least can do it occasionally. He can't. That's simple. Anyway, let's see what happens on Monday's game. Hopefully, it's a fun one. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, please leave comments in the comment section if you have thoughts on anything I said, and even if not, just drop me a hoodat in the comments section. It does help the channel, helps more people see it. Appreciate it. Hoodat. Talk to y'all later.